Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Friday, July 8th, 2016 at around 8:45 a.m. And I thought I'd give you a little insight as to my morning process. I guess you're going to see this little talking head here. I'll get rid of that. I'm setting up for this morning's work. I restarted my system, but I did that to sort of show you everything from scratch. So command line windows or shells are sort of critical. But then I use this feature, which is the max ability to open things to true full screen. And then I do flower key plus a few times to get that type up to a nice size for my old eyes. And then I CD into my home directory where I keep my personal journal repo. And then I can actually vim index.html. And this is more or less the way I see my journal when I get here in the morning. Usually where I left off, somewhere around here. And then because I had been home, I actually drop out to the shell and I do a git pull. And this combines any of the writing which I did at home. As you can see, it's 106 lines with what I have here at the office. And then when I exit out of that shell, Vim tells me the file has changed. Would I like to automatically reload it? I'll hit L to reload the file. And so now all the stuff I wrote at home is in here. I hit my little macro, which is ampersand J, not ampersand, but @J. That starts my new entry, just like blogging. It's reverse chronological where new entries go at the top. You can see that above it I have my to-do list up here. I have the names of a bunch of projects which I'm really keen on starting, and I think I actually will start to do it now that I'm basing my work on Jupyter Notebooks, which is really just, I believe, taking my Python stuff to the next level. I'm ready to go from Python 2.7 to 3.5, and so every day at work now is part of that journey, including these entries here. And so what I want to show you is step one in doing this sort of thing is install Anaconda. Now, I didn't think so at first. I thought Anaconda was working from a position of weakness because it exists mostly so that all the things that are difficult to get installed under Windows and Mac can get installed easily, stuff that installs easily in the Unix and Linux worlds under their native repository systems. So what I'm going to do, since I already have Anaconda installed on my system, is I am going to load VMware Fusion. And I will install Anaconda on Windows 10, which I imagine a lot of you folks out there are on, and start to show you the true wonders of the Mac system. And this is even a circa, if you look at my Mac, about this Mac, this is a 1.7 megahertz i5 from circa mid 2011. And so I have the most recent El Captain operating system running on the Mac, and it's perfectly capable of supporting Windows there as well. So as that logs in, I'll make sure I'm still actually recording because I did that pause. And here's Windows 10. Let's see. Wow, I don't even know if I've installed Chrome on this. How good of a position am I to show you this demo? I guess I'm still in a fine position. We'll use not Explorer. I guess they call it Edge now. And under Edge, we will search in whatever search this is for Anaconda. And why we're doing this is to get Jupyter Notebook installed. What we're interested in is Jupyter Notebook, not light tubing. We want Anaconda. Well, there you go, old habits. It was Bing, it didn't show me the Anaconda I wanted as the first result. I think Google does, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just interested in those things because that's my field. I go into the Anaconda from continuum.io. And now you choose the version that matches your operating system. I'm going to do Python 3.5. Oh, you got to choose between Python 2.7 and 3.5. Go with 3.5. Unless you have legacy stuff you really have to support, it's better to be based in the future than the past. So I believe it's Windows 64-bit that I'm emulating here. I do not want the cheat sheet. No thanks. But we should still see the download start. And there it is. Already close to 50% of the way done, so this won't take too long. I'll try and do a no-edit video. This video is only going to take you through the installation of Anaconda and then the running of Jupyter Notebook to get you to what I consider a wonderful starting point for learning Python. And I know a lot of you out there are on different platforms. Some are on OS X, some are on Windows, some are even on other Linux platforms. And the whole point here is to make all of them have very similar Python code execution environments, a trick for which I always used virtual machines in the past, but which I'm going to try to sort of do less of because I want to use the power of my local machine. So there is the installer. Whenever you're working through servers these days, you're probably working through a virtual server, which means you're either trying to get a cheap one free at a low tier from like Amazon if it's your own work, or you're virtualizing one locally with VirtualBox. In either case, you're making these sacrifices on performance. It's a thunking layer. You know, it's ziggurats of virtual levels. I like to install it for all users. That's so that it's installed usually in C:\\Anaconda. It makes all paths in the future much easier, but it is at the expense of some security context things. It's generally against modern best practices to put things on the root of your C drive, especially things that execute code. Yeah, we want to add it to the system path environment and register. We're essentially making the Python 3.5 that Anaconda installs into our primary Python of our system. So one of the situations a lot of people get into is you get multiple versions of Python installed in different locations on your system, and the most recently set path wins. And that's really a nightmare for dependencies and keeping old things you wrote running. And the solution to that has been something called virtual env. And that is very closely tied to a tool called pip. So we all do, you know, in Python these days, pip install package name, and bam, it's installed. But it's being installed onto a platform of ambiguity, which Python is winning. You have 3.5 and 2.7 installed on your machine, so when you do pip install, which pip is it? One solution is to have, you know, pip2 for Python 2.7, pip3 for Python 3.5, but another solution is this virtual env thing that is used almost, you know, always with pip, so that when you pip install, it's in a localized, packaged up area where the paths are controlled and all dependencies are kept local. And Anaconda ships with its own called Conda. So probably on my next tutorial I'll set up creating one of these Conda-based virtual environments for running your Jupyter Notebook out of. But at the end of this Anaconda install, which I'll probably pause when I run out of things to talk about, I will simply be opening a command line, a Windows CMD, and typing Jupyter Space Notebook, and you'll see it pop up into, hopefully, Microsoft Edge here. I almost always do this in Chrome. There's a few firsts here. But that's in the spirit of the raw and genuine way that I do these videos, greatly unedited. When I do unboxing videos, they're true unboxing videos. I don't open it ahead of time to see what's in store. And I oftentimes leave my mistakes and fumbles all intact for the sake of your learning. And at times like this, when I run out of things to talk about and bore you silly, I hit pause. Okay, I thought I'd come back as the install was nearing completion to point out all these different things like Spider and NumPy and SciPy that get installed automatically during the Anaconda install. There's SQL Alchemy. And I thought I'd scroll over here just to check on my recording. Yep, I am recording. And it's fine to just get rid of the VMware Fusion command interface. And so now what you have left is, these virtual screens. You don't even need this one until later. And so now what I've got is the ability to switch between a Mac desktop and do normal stuff, a full screen Edge Windows 10 interface, and a full screen journal. So that's what we're doing now, installing Anaconda. See how close it is. Ooh, just about done. We'll pause a little more. Okay, and I believe, there we go. A script popped up, completed. And so now what we have is not only Anaconda, but all the packages it installs with it, which is touted to be all the necessary ones for, the most common tasks that data science type people use these packages for. So the main audience for this is really people who manipulate data and find patterns and answers in it in response to questions. So we have this that was recently added. Pop that up, and if I recall correctly, that's going to pull up a interstitial user interface from which we can run Jupyter Notebook. But I am probably inclined to not run it that way so that I can show you running it specifically from a command line. Oh, interesting. Maybe this is doing everything automatically without the in-between screen. First time I installed it under Windows 10. Let's make sure there's no prompts waiting for me. That sometimes happens. To minimize other things. Nope, nothing back there. It's just sitting there going, oh, I'm trying to start. Well, while that's going on, I'll have this alternative approach queued up and ready, in which case you bring up the command window, CMD. Yep, there it is. Oh, this might be working. We might be able to chalk this slowness in starting up to either it being on a virtual machine, which is a possibility, or it being the first time running. And I believe it's running a bunch of command windows from me trying to start the command window. Okay, that's looking good. Let's bring Edge back up, and a new tab should appear in a moment if I am not mistaken. Okay, we'll use Microsoft Edge. New tab. It's being served from localhost :8888/tree. Hey, Jupyter Notebook. So let's do our first simple hello world in Python, since this ultimately is an introduction to Python for people to follow my tutorials and videos in lockstep with me without having to live in the Vim environment. So 2 is start Jupyter Notebook, and 3 is going to be new Python running from root. I'll explain more about that later. And so we get our third tab, the home, the default one, the one which is home, and then the one which is for a program I'm running. And if we wanted to do hello world, first I will do a little demonstration. If you see those tutorials online that say this is the Python hello world, well, they're not anymore if you're on Python 3, such as we are. You will get an error. So, lesson number 1 in Python, hello world, is actually this, because print is now a function in Python rather than a interpreter directive, special keyword like return and yield. Things like return and yield, which are how functions pass back their values to the calling function, don't need to use parentheses because they're special cases that need to be understood and recognized on a case-by-case basis by the Python interpreter. Print used to be one of those types of statements, directives. It's not anymore. It's a function. So parentheses around your print statement. And just to do a super quick crash course in Python, everything is about lists. So if you just type the word list, I must have typed something to get line numbers there. List, typing in list tells you, oh, it's a list. But if you typed list with parentheses, now you see the string representation of a list. That would be the same as typing the actual square parentheses. So what is those square parentheses? It's the string interpretation of a list. If we were to go 1, 2, 3, it looks like an array, what other languages would call an array, but in Python, it's a much more versatile list, like you can turn things into strings, and then you can step through them. For item in, oh, let's set it equal to a sequence, seq, for lack of anything better, or actually I'll use a list, an instance of a list. So now it's held in a variable called a list. So for items in a list, print item. Voila, 1, 2, 3. And let's see, let's print item, comma, type of item. Let's see if that'll work. So you see the pointy bracket representations of integer and string. So that's interesting. It looks like it's being fed as 2 parameters to print, but what it's really being fed as is a tuple type, because these things tend to group up atomically. So that would be the same as saying, whoops, heavy on my palm there, new val equals item, comma, type item. And of course printing new val. That will produce the same results. And what you need to know is that this syntax is the slightly less readable version of what is a tuple data type. So if you go like that, that now looks more like a tuple representation. And that's all sort of a fancy way of saying lists are not the only game in town. There's also tuple, whoops, T-U-P-E-L, T-U-P-L-E. And there it is the parenthesis representation. So if we were to say, you know, a tuple equals 1, 2, 3. It looks much like a list when we print it. So we'll print it by adding a cell, a tuple. You know, it looks very much like what we're doing here with a list. We'll add a cell and we'll print a list. But the difference is, and a lot of Python comes down to understanding these subtle differences, is that tuples are immutable. So if I were to try and add to that or append to that 4, it would throw an error because you can't append to a tuple. It is what it is. But if you were to do that to a list, it does it happily. And there you go. That's sort of a crash course on getting Jupyter Notebook installed and doing some rudimentary Python. And we'll change this file name to Hello World. And I'll show you about the files that actually get created on the hard drive from the directory this got run from. Because controlling what becomes your equivalent of your home location is quite important. You can see it became the Windows home location, which is not a bad place to be, but generally we want to be working inside directories that are found there and not in the root of your home itself, which is where it ran from when you selected it directly from here. So the alternative way of doing that is if we bring up this and we Control-C it, you have to Control-C twice to get out of it. It'll flash a message up here that the server was shut down. That's okay. We'll close out of that, because we're about to run it again, but this time from here. And if I were to do a dir, I believe it's going to be that same location. And here is, let's see, no, maybe not. There's probably a home documents. It's probably documents. Yeah, there we are. So I'll do make dir here inside of documents, and I'll call it project 1. CD project 1. Jupyter Notebook. And now it's going to be running from the command line from the directory I started it in instead of sort of an arbitrary home directory from selecting it directly on the Windows menu. And this is a much better way to do it because when you want to control local files like opening files and such, it's nice to have them found relative to where you're actually running this from. So if we were to go into documents now, you'll see my project 1. There's no file there until I actually create one. New Python root. There's the untitled appearing. We'll give it a name. My first project. And you'll see that changes to that. And we'll do a print hello world. And this is what I'll stop on here because after I execute that and do a save, I'll show you what that .ipynb file actually is. Let's see, open with more apps. Notepad is perfectly sufficient. Voila! The line returns are not great for you to see it. Maybe I should have used WordPad or something. But it is just standard JSON, which makes it highly readable, easy to share. And one of the reasons why Jupyter Notebook is becoming one of the preferred ways to share code and projects and data investigations and Python tutorials, and the list goes on, because every step you do can be recordable and reproducible by other people. That's great for the data science fields, but it's also great for people just going through the Python learning experience for the first time. And so if you want to do that along with me, go ahead, download on Anaconda, get into the flow of knowing how to launch Jupyter Notebook from a particular directory, and I'll spare you the pain and agony of having to learn Vim to follow along with me in my videos. And that's about it. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.